We're the Vinyl Verdict. I'm Jacob.
I'm Michael.
And we're here to talk about the next McCartney single, Mull of Kintyre, the Wings follow-up to the Wings Over the World tour that went all over, as well as the Wings at the Speed of Sound album, which produced a #1 hit and I think a top 5 hit around the world. But obviously, right away from hearing this single, you can tell they're going in a very different direction. It's a complicated one because depending on where you were at, Mull of Kintyre wasn't even the A-side. In the US, I believe they started playing Girls' School more on the radio, and so that actually kind of became the de facto A-side. In the midst of what was becoming a harder kind of punk sound and disco and all these things, the song hit #1 and stayed there for 9 weeks over Christmas in the UK. It became the best-selling single ever, which replaced the previous best-selling single, She Loves You. So McCartney replacing himself, and would only be replaced in the 80s by Do They Know It's Christmas, which also features McCartney on it. So he replaced himself as the best-selling single in the UK twice, actually, in a way. Total flop in the US. I think it hit mid-30s, and that was, again, because of Girls' School. So probably his biggest flop of a leading single in the US and his best-selling single in the UK. So very interesting contrast there.
I love this song. It took a little getting used to because of the change in the sound, but lyrically I heard it and it just, although it wasn't specific, it just really moved me emotionally, I'll say that, where his memories remain, and no doubt of its UK based origin or the beauty of the Scottish bagpipes, which I think Paul was concerned about even getting on the record. And as you say, it wasn't played here the same way as Girls' School, which had a little bit of the Jimmy McCullough riff going. So
I don't think there was a marketing push behind it in the US. They just figured it wouldn't be successful, and self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit. Which, again, it's always told in Wingspan and in these documentaries as being Paul's answer to punk. I don't know that I agree with that, because punk is about very simple chords, not even knowing how to play your instrument. Mull of Kintyre is kind of about that too. It's 2 chords. You could play this with 3 strings on a guitar. You could really just do A to D and then D to G, and you would be able to play this song with open strings without even hitting chords. And I actually wonder about that, because most songs that modulate stay in that key. And then he comes back down, which is interesting. You went on this whole journey and you come back, and obviously you have a different perspective when he comes back to A. But I actually think, I remember him saying it might be because the bagpipes could only play in D because of the way they're tuned. So he might have just modulated, that's when he modulates. But then he also sings Sweep Through the Heather and everything.
Right, which is
in that higher key.
It's a little high.
And it is unique rhythm and everything, the way he's playing it. It's got the waltz, and then it has both the way you can sing it. You could sing it out of key in a bar at 3 a.m. in Scotland, or you can sing it in the beautiful way that he does in the middle. And it's a very dynamic melody because of that. But it's so simple, it's deceiving, which is kind of the way music was going at that time. So he still had his pulse on something there.
I think he was aware of the era, the punk movement and the whole thing, and I think how he hit on this, I don't know, but I remember reading that he was amazed and pleased that it landed like it did so massively in the UK.
Definitely one of his most unique ones. I mean, there's not many McCartney singles you hear that go, that doesn't remind me of any of the other 35 #1s he's written, right? But this one kind of does. And Denny Laine, also got to give him credit for that, especially probably his biggest contribution to Wings was, again, he was with Linda and Paul during Band on the Run, and he's the sole person with them during this Mull of Kintyre period.
Yes, I have noticed lately, which maybe I didn't at the time, the extent of the harmony throughout with Denny kind of under Paul, and then at the end, Linda's in there towards the ending, and I think carries it off. It's a choral effect at the end with the bagpipes and the harmonies going.
Yeah, and you got to wonder what influenced what, because if he was in the 5-piece band with Joe English and Jimmy McCullough, would this song ever have been written? And if so, would it have been arranged in this way? Probably not. You almost think that the London Town sessions informed the direction that Paul went in with this single, perhaps. So
certainly later, on your London Town, there's signs of a folk influence coming into many of the songs, or Deliver Your Children and all those things, and Denny's influence on some of his songs.
We'll look at the other side of the single, Girls' School, which also was a single exclusive. It was never featured on an album of any kind. This was recorded in February '77 as part of, I think it was among the first tracks for the London Town album, recorded on the boat with Jimmy McCullough and Joe English. Pure rock, punk-ish song. probably second only to Boyle Crisis, maybe, for the most punk track that McCartney ever wrote, which he had good judgment in not releasing. To me, this is clearly a post, again, Wings Over America, Wings Over the World direction, but not a clear direction. Is he just going to do more kind of rocky songs? And the production's a little bit muddy. The lyrics aren't totally clear what he's trying to get across here. It's kind of like Maxwell's Silver Hammer with even less of the theme.
I like the riff. I'd say, you can't miss it, and I always enjoyed Jimmy McCall's playing. I think towards the end there, in the middle of the song, there's a rhythm guitar under the riff doing the exact same riff. So there's like more, rather than with lead, it's doing it with chords or something. But that's the riff. That's the song. I guess repetitive is a fair thing to say because you're certainly going to hear it a lot during the song. To me, it kind of slipped under the radar. It was a Wings B-side that went up into the ether there somewhere, and I was aware of it, but never really knew it that well. Almost could have seen it on a London Town thing, not as maybe one of the strongest tracks, but you have to be ready to listen to that riff in girls' school and like it or accept it, because you're going to hear it all the way through and all the way through the extended ending, and with or other instruments playing it underneath it. That's the riff in the girls' school chorus.
I think the drums are leading a lot of this. Like they go like halftime, and which is clearly Joe English, who I think was one of the most proficient drummers that Paul ever worked with. They go halftime in some of the pre-choruses and stuff, and that adds needed changes in the music, because otherwise it really is just one kind of full, muddy, non-stop, guitar-driven song. All right, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Vinyl Verdict.